what I would like you to do now is to pause the video and just spend a bit of time looking at this graph. I'd like you to do this in a certain order as well. So I'd like you to think, first of all, what do you notice? And then after a while, you probably have some questions about it. And then maybe you could think about what you think the story this graph is telling. So pause the video now, and when you've had a chance to do that, restart it again. Okay, great. So hopefully, it was very easy and very accessible to notice things. The reason I like this activity so much, which has actually been taken from the New York Times, What's Going On in This Graph, where they publish a live graph and ask students to comment on it. And then they actually respond to comments. And it's really interesting to see, the variety of different things that people are noticing and questioning as well. Obviously, there may be some individual questions. Sometimes we get, teachers saying, why are students with a grade D in GCSE going on to do A-level? Which is an interesting question. And I think there's quite a lot of unpicking to do with the data, So this is students' GCSE level in maths in 2015. And then what they went on to do in maths. And I think it's pretty clear that there is, a very large number of students that are not doing any maths, and a lot of them may have achieved high grades in a GCSE, and for whatever reason they've just chosen to do something different, to do different subjects. Sorry, this diagram, this is called the Sankey diagram, and it's part of Professor Adrian Smith's review into post-16 maths education. I'll provide a link so that you can read that in depth and explore everything a bit more as well a bit later on. So just to give you some basic background information about core maths and the basic facts of it. So it was originally designed for students who'd got at least a grade 4 in GCSE maths. And it just meant that there's an option now for everyone to do maths. I mean, I still remember students coming to me saying they really loved maths and they wanted to continue with it. But at the time, we only offered A-level, and it just didn't, I couldn't offer them anything. And to turn around and say to someone who's telling you they love maths that there isn't anything for them to do, it's a pretty bad thing to be doing, really. And so it's great if you offer core maths and there is something there for everybody. It's graded A to E, and it's equivalent to an AS qualification. So it's a level 3 qualification, but it's equivalent to an AS. So it's designed that you would do 3 A-levels plus core maths, or you perhaps do a level 3 BTEC and make core maths part of that whole student's program. It was only first examined in 2016, so it is still relatively new, and lots of people don't know what it is. Lots of people hear the words core maths and they think, oh, that's like the old core 1 to 4 in A-level maths, and the content is completely different. So we have had some people attending courses who are very surprised and often nicely surprised when they see the content. Because it's equivalent to AS, it's got the same guided learning hours. Now, we do see a huge variation in what schools and colleges are doing with this course. So some places offer it over 1 year, but when you think about it, it's not really 1 year, because it runs from September, and then the exams are the same time as the AS exams. So you only really have about 9 months. So, that's a little bit of a drawback, but there's also the issue to consider, well, at least if they've done it in the first year, they can then perhaps focus on their other 3 A-levels or their BTEC in their second year of sixth form. But if you do it over 2 years, you've got the opportunity for them to really develop their problem-solving skills and they mature. So it's a difficult balance, and I think it really depends on the kind of institution you work in. I worked in FE, and it would have been really, really challenging for us to offer it over 2 years. Because of retention. But I think if you're in an 11 to 18 school, then it perhaps does work better over 2 years. But like I said, it depends, and we generally see about a 50-50 split across the country. And in terms of amount of time as well, we see a huge variation. We've seen as little as 1.5 hours per week over 1 year, which in my opinion really isn't enough. It's very limiting in terms of the projects and things that you can do, all the way up to 5 hours a week in some places. So I think it is important to make sure you do have sufficient time, that you can have the flexibility that should be possible within this course. Sometimes students may say to you, oh, you know what, I've had enough. GCSE maths was it for me. I don't want to do any more maths. But there is actually quite a lot of maths now in some other A levels, and some of the content is really, really challenging. So, if you are trying to convince them to do core maths and they're quite resistant, well, you can say, well, do you know what? You're going to be doing quite a lot of maths anyway if you want to do any of these subjects. And certainly if you're doing a BTEC, obviously there's quite a lot of variation depending on which course you do, but there are still increased requirements. And that, obviously with T levels, if you work in a vocational institution, there's quite high maths requirements for that too. So geography I've been really surprised by, because about half of the course is about quantitative analysis, and some of the questions are really open and there's a lot expected from the student. Other ones here, perhaps surprising: design technology. Quite a lot of the maths questions are quite challenging. So a big variation, and it's really worth going and speaking to your other subject teachers and asking them to share what the maths questions look like. Honestly, I really don't think I did that enough. Yeah, I had quite a good relationship with the psychology department, but I really didn't get an opportunity to go and explore. And just looking through papers now, I've been really surprised and interested, and it's nice to share those questions with maths students too.